I am calling to order this meeting of the Town Council of the Town of Silver City. Would you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Councilor Ray is here with us tonight by phone. Councilor Ray, can you hear me?
Yes, sir, I sure can.
Okay. The next item on the agenda are ceremonies, and there are none. The next item on the agenda is proclamations. And since April is Child Abuse Prevention Month, the Town of Silver City would like to issue a proclamation to acknowledge this. Would Ms. Melissa Gonzalez please come forward? Whereas we all have a responsibility as individuals, neighbors, community members, and citizens of Silver City to help create healthy, safe, and nurturing experiences for children. And whereas safe and healthy childhoods can produce confident and successful adults. And whereas child abuse and neglect often occurs when people find themselves in stressful situations without community resources and they do not know how to cope. And whereas the majority of child abuse cases stem from situations and conditions that are preventable in an engaged and supportive community. And whereas child abuse and neglect can be reduced by making sure every family has the support they need and deserve to raise their children in a healthy environment. And whereas it is recognized that no one person can do everything, but that everyone can do something, and together we can create change for the better. And whereas effective prevention programs succeed because of partnerships among agencies, schools, religious organizations, law enforcement agencies, and the business community. And whereas displaying a blue ribbon in April will serve as a positive reminder that together we can prevent child abuse and keep children safe. Now therefore, I, Ken Ladner, Mayor of the Town of Silver City, do hereby proclaim April 2016 as Child Abuse Prevention Month in Silver City. And I urge all citizens to engage in activities that strengthen families and communities to provide the optimal environment for children to learn, grow, and thrive so that all children have the benefit of happy, healthy, and safe childhood. On behalf of the Town of Silver City, Ms. Gonzalez, could you tell us a little bit about your role?
Yes, my name is Melissa Gonzalez, and I am the investigation supervisor for Child Protective Services in the Grant County area. We go out and make sure that children are safe and that all of their needs and their well-being is met. And I'd like to thank you and the rest of the Town Council as well for supporting the children of Grant County.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can you face me for a second and hold that up? Thank you.
A few weeks ago, on April the 14th, I had the opportunity to attend a child abuse prevention seminar presented by Hidalgo Medical Center, and it was well attended. There were lots of people there that I know will benefit greatly from being able to recognize the signs of child abuse and take appropriate action. Thank you again for putting on that seminar. Last Thursday was the grand opening of the Silco Theater, and at that ceremony, the Main Street organization presented an award to the town of Silver City for their support. Next on the agenda is public input, and our only person signed up today was Lucy Whitmore. Ms. Whitmore?
The Silver City Main Street would like to present to the town council and also the mayor and the town staff, who have been such a tremendous help to us in trying for the work that we did with reopening the Silco Theater and the renovation. So thank you very much, and we really appreciate you.
You're welcome. I see a lot of writing on the back. What is that?
I think that was your suggestion. I can read it to you. It says, Silco Theater grand opening April 21st, 2016. Silver City Mayor and Town Council, thank you for your support from the Silver City Main Street.
Thank you. And you have some more input?
Yes. I want to put that to them or something?
Yeah, he wanted me to take
Oh, take it. And then I did want to just take a few minutes to talk about a downtown cleanup program that we're doing on Saturday morning, and it's going to be from 9 to 12. It's to come to the visitor center and meet there, and we're going to be going around in the commercial district downtown, just picking up trash and cleaning up some of the wiping down things, cleaning them up, and trying to brighten up our downtown a little bit. And it would be good if you can to sign up ahead of time, because that way we're going to be able to divide people up into teams, and then we'll be able to get out there and do a good job and get everything all spruced up. So I do have forms on the table in the back to sign up. We also have forms at the Visitor Center, which is at 201 North Hudson Street in Silver City. And I hope a lot of people can come out and help us.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is council comments. Councilor Kano.
Thank you, Mayor. I just have one thing. I would like to acknowledge the passing of a resident of my district. Jesus Chuy Lopez was a retired battalion chief in the Silver City Fire Department, and he passed away after a long illness about a week ago. And he was just so beloved in this community. I don't know anyone that had anything bad to say about that man. He was so nice to everybody, and he was so helpful, and it's just, it saddens me very much that he's gone now. And I also wanted to mention that his funeral touched a lot of people, and I've heard from several people about just how amazingly classy our fire department was in the way they handled his service. So thank you to the Silver City Fire Department for what they did for the family. Thank you.
Councilor Ray.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First of all, I want to say hello to the people there in Silver and to all of you guys. Anyway, I will be working on an NOI for the cell phones for our next meeting, May the 12th. I will be talking with Mrs. Karen to get some fine tuning on the language. And as we all know, the state of New Mexico is allowing four-wheelers to be put on public roads with the municipalities taking charge of it. I will be talking about that, and I hope to have a place where we can meet and vote for them and against them. And it's going to be a very touchy situation, but I would like to see how far we can go with it. And again, it's up to the local municipalities to either allow it or disallow it. I had a meeting with Mr. Kevin and now from AMREC and Mr. Quintana and myself about the facility for the upcoming Blues and Bike Run. We're all putting our thoughts together and energy for citizens. And also, I'm asking to see if everybody can help and spread the word any way possible. This year, it's probably be bigger than last year. And the proceeds that we're going to do from the bike run for this year are going to go, as the expenses are paid, will be donated to the young ladies from Grand County who are raising money to see if they can go play softball in Italy this June. We will all support them and however we can, and make this planning to go to Italy a reality for them. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Councilman Amon Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I want to really acknowledge the work that everyone did for the Continental Divide Trail Days and the Earth Day. Cold one weekend, warm the next, and it was really fun. I want to mention that the Arts and Cultural State had a small conference in town in which they talked quite a bit about the creative economy, a lot of interesting ideas there, and that was really great. And I will be at the Visitor Center on the graffiti removal team on Saturday if anyone wants to join me. And tomorrow evening, there will be a community input session about the bicycle master plan, something that is dear to my heart. The meeting will be at 6 p.m. at the town annex, which is that building on 12th and Hudson. Just go in the doors that you would go into the bank, and then go upstairs. And I hope a number of people will come out and learn and engage. I think it will be fun and informative. And then last, but perhaps not least, I heard it from a good source that during the Blues Festival, the Silco Theater is going to be showing Easy Rider and the Blues Brothers.
Thank you. Councilman Battiston.
Thank you, Mayor. Several weeks ago, I was able to attend several functions that were in town. The opening of a new exhibit at the Silver City Museum on Southwestern Women. It's really well done. I'm pleased that so many of our museums in New Mexico were able to loan items that really made the exhibit even more outstanding when they were placed with local items that the Silver City Museum has in their collections. And I think it was a fitting tribute for the last exhibit that Tracy Spikes, the former now museum director, had been in charge of, along with his other staff, in putting up. I was able to attend, along with some other staff from the town, Tracy's retirement party, and he will be missed, but he's pleased that after over 30 years of being in museums, that he's going to finally enjoy, I think, retirement and a little bit of time with his wife in Florida. So we're looking forward to find out who the new museum director will be, and I know everybody's kind of waiting to find out that. So I'd heard and hoped that maybe Mr. Brown could talk about who's going to be the interim director. Is there an interim? Okay. And so that everybody can know, because there's lots of questions about, and they keep asking me, and I have no idea. So thank you. And also, I was really impressed with the CDT Trail Days turnout, the big event at the Toad. It was like 3 times larger than last year. It was very impressive. And then the CDT Trails Days continued the next day with a series of vendors and folks that were supporting the trail days, like Vask and a number of other vendors down along the big ditch. It was really very nice, and while the weather wasn't necessarily cooperative, it got people in the mood to go out and go camping and to get some warm weather gear and just to hike the CDT trail. So it was pretty exciting. Unfortunately, I couldn't attend most of the events that we had in town last week, simply because I was either ill or I was up attending a municipal officials leadership advanced course with Councilor Kano over here, and it was really a well-done course. It was all about the zoning, and every single question one could ask about zoning matters. And I think that the individuals from the league that presented that are going to do it in several weeks at the zone conference, and have suggested anybody who wanted to go from the town staff or from the town council that they might be interested in getting the same sort of seminar that we received. So I did get to attend Earth Day for a little bit, and I thought that was really impressive as well, and saw lots of photos on Facebook of everybody planting the trees and the fruit trees, which is really wonderful to have. And I think that's great to have sort of an urban sort of resource that anyone can pick fruit and enjoy in town. And last, I was recently reappointed to the New Mexico Municipal League's Budget Committee by the league president, who is the mayor of Cloudcroft, Dave Venable. And this is a really good thing. It's, I think, the third or fourth year I've been appointed to the Budget Committee, because it provides Silver City with a voice and a seat, along with the other committee members, to really try to direct how the league's monies and assets should be used in the upcoming year, and to evaluate how our budget was in the past year in preparation for an upcoming board meeting, where the board as a whole will agree to the budget for the upcoming year and to what was spent the year before. So I'm looking forward to going again and representing Silver City and making sure that we have enough funds to hopefully progress, as the league has done in the past, with different sorts of legislation that's beneficial to municipalities. So, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Does the council have any additional comments?
No, sir.
Last week was a rough week for our community. Words have such poor power at times like this, but we want the families and friends of the two individuals whose lives were lost to know that our thoughts and our prayers are with them. The next item on the agenda is changes to the agenda. Does the council want to make any changes to the agenda? Okay. The next item so no changes to the agenda. The next item on the agenda is the approval of minutes of the April 12, 2016 regular meeting of the Town Council. Is there a motion to approve?
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve the minutes of the regular council meeting of the Town of Silver City of April 12, 2016.
Is there a second?
Mr. Mayor, I second the motion stated.
Okay. Any other discussion?
No, sir.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed, say nay. Motion carries. The next item on the agenda is staff reports. Mr. Brown?
Council, I've got two short reports. One is, we have already offered the position as for museum director to, I can't remember her name. I felt so bad. Do you remember the name I told you yesterday? The museum director?
I'm sorry.
The museum director.
Tracy.
No, the new one.
Oh, the new one. No, I didn't bring the paperwork.
I completely lost it when you looked at me. I blanked it. I can't remember. But she's currently employed with the State Museum in Santa Fe. Yes. What is Yes.
Oh, wow. Great.
And what, you want to see that?
Okay. If I'm right, it's Louise Stiver. Is that correct?
That sounds like the...
That's one of the folks that was recently down at the exhibit opening and worked with Tracy on that and the other staff on the exhibit.
Yes. So we had a search committee made up of the library board members, Celia, museum board members, 3 of them, Celia, Tracy, and then we had some input from the curator or the director at the Farm and Ranch Museum out of Las Cruces. He helped up until the interview process. And so we had a lot of good input. I'm very happy with the products that I was presented with. It wasn't a very hard decision to offer her the position. So she will be starting in mid-May. Up to that point, Eileen from the library will be acting director for the next few weeks. She's been working very, very closely with Tracy for a long time, and we all thought that working with Tracy, Eileen, staff at the museum, and board members, we all thought that she would be a good fit for that transition. And so that's what's going to be happening there. I just got back from TRC from the Colonias Awards, and we were awarded $903,000 for the reconstruction of College Street. So hopefully, that project is about 90% engineered, so we don't have a whole lot to get done on our side, so we'll probably just be needing to wait for contracts and everything, and then wait for warmer weather such as what we're having now next year at this time. So we should probably be getting started with that project next year about this time. Okay. And
Does the council have any questions of Mr. Brown on these 2 items?
okay, and then now Ann's got a report.
Good evening, Mayor and Councilors. Last week, I had the pleasure of attending and presiding over the New Mexico Municipal Clerks and Finance Officers Association Spring Meeting in Albuquerque. It was very educational and informative, and these conferences are always a great way for clerks around the state to network and support one another. I appreciate the council's and Mr. Brown's support of my training and development. As the president of the association, I had the distinct honor of presenting the Clerk of the Year award. The purpose of this award is to identify and recognize a member of the Municipal Clerks and Finance Officers Association who has made an enhancement to the clerk's own community or municipal government, made a significant contribution to the New Mexico Clerks Association and the advancement of the municipal clerk's profession and/or the promotion of municipal government in New Mexico. Nominations are made by a mayor, councilor, or trustee, city manager or administrator, or a member of the general public. This year, we received 4 nominations from around the state, and I am proud to recognize and congratulate Christina Ortiz, City Clerk Treasurer for the City of Bayard, as the Clerk of the Year. And we asked Christy to come tonight so we can formally congratulate her for receiving this prestigious award. Christy, would you stand up, please? Would you like to say anything, Christy?
just want to say thank you to everybody that had my support, and I've helped her and she's helped me for numerous things. My city council, without them I wouldn't be in the position I am. My family, my husband, my kids, and I've worked with several people at the town of Silver, Alex, Cynthia, a lot of people, so just thank you for everybody.
Thank you. Congratulations. Thank you, Ann. Next on the agenda is public hearings, and there are none. The next item,
We have another staff report.
oh, okay, I'm sorry.
No.
No, we don't want you to skip it.
Mayor, Council, this is a continuance for your request regarding the plans, and it's a very different view when you're this close. Before I get started on this specific plan, I wanted to make a comment that all of the plans that you're going to hear about over the next many months, they're all could be considered a sub-plan of the comprehensive plan, and I think that's really important, because the comprehensive plan 1 will be coming up for revision and your approval. So it's really, really critical that we put great effort and contribution to the comprehensive plan. Tonight, I chose the floodplain management plan, which many people are still wondering how that happened. I deliberately chose some of the more obscure plans because, to start with, there's a lot of plans that go on that, I mean, as far as even a paving plan. So it's really important that we understand the foundations, and this is one of them, and as well as public safety. This was adopted by Resolution 2002-05, and if you go through the whereases, once again, as I mentioned last plan, this was a grant funding required the plan. One of the goals is that it lowers insurance rates through the National Flood Insurance Program and the community rating system. Another goal is to mitigate flood damage. And the fourth item that I've listed here is meet the comprehensive plan goals, or 5 of them that are found on page 24 and 25. The plan goes on to list and describe the flood history of Silver City starting in 1895 through 1999. I'll be happy to discuss that if you would like. It's lengthy and has numerous contributing factors, and some of them we still suffer today that were done way back then. Goes on to describe some of the protective measures that were done at the time when the big ditch was incised, and they built the masonry walls on all 3 creeks. And if you go down there today, you'll see that there's some significant issues with those walls, and some of them are being undercut, and some of them have some joint issues. So that's actually been something we're continuing to work on today. The next item I have listed is the development in the floodplain at certain points in our history was not considered something to be concerned about, apparently. There are 13 significant structures in the floodplain that are listed in the plan. There's critical facilities that are in the floodplain, such as our wastewater treatment plant below, south of town, the Grant County Regional Dispatch, the police and fire departments, and numerous water, sewage, and gas lines. The additional problems is that are stated in the plan, and I think most of us are well aware of, is the street crossings. We have several areas where there's just a low water crossing, and I actually have an award sitting on my desk that I received from one of those floods. The water historically had been entering the sewer system from various points. Of course, we'd be remiss without the frequent reminder of Yankee Street and the crossing downtown, and many of you will remember years ago there was a bridge that would be brought out, and that has since gone away. So there's many issues that are listed in the plan. The goals that were listed, there's 4 of them that are specifically addressed. Many of those items that are listed under the action items have been accomplished, and some of them have been partly accomplished, and some of them will never be completed because they're actually ongoing. When you look at I've had discussion with some of you regarding the health of the urban forest. Well, we have to maintain that continuously, and it is so easy to fall behind on that, and when we do, it starts backing everything up on the creeks. This year we had a cottonwood tree fall in the creek, and we had a rainstorm coming within 2 days, so we broke down the silos that you typically find in government. We had fire department, we had parks, we had the JPPO, we had the Youth Conservation Corps. They all went out there, and this tree was like this big around. It was huge, and we got that opened up before the rains came, and which could have been catastrophic for a neighborhood that is actually, and a particular house that's actually referenced in this plan has had historical problems with flooding. So the goals in this particular plan, unlike some in the last plan, are pretty honorable goals. They're things that we need to be aware of, we need to maintain. The plan has not sat on the shelf. We continue to work to address the issues. And then in summary, the plan lists maintaining the floodplains, limit development, and many of you have, if you mind, I know Councilor Bedison, when we did the rewrite of the land use code, we've got standards in there now that we didn't regarding building in the floodplain. So we have addressed some of that. Educate the community on the risks and dangers of the floodplains and activities in and around them. Seek outside funding, continuous. Improve warning, and we have made some improvements in the warning. We're still refining that. If you are aware of the Code Red that you can sign up on any of the local government websites, will notify your cell phone and whatever phone numbers you sign up. Update and enforce regulations. I believe at this point we have the highest number of code enforcement officers we've ever had. We have 3 now that are actively pursuing some of these cases that involve this plan. Incorporate detention. Last week when we met with the Forest Service, Wilderness and Trails people, and the mayor was there, that was one of the big concerns, is some of the retention dams that were built up in the upper watershed are gone. They're totally non-functional at this point. Collaborate with others. I probably count 6 different groups that are working down in that creek almost weekly, and it's been really refreshing to see all of the collaboration that's going on. For the upper watershed, mitigation is going to require some additional collaboration with Forest Service and possibly BLM and working with them to identify some additional mitigation features. And an interesting one from 2002 was to implement the Greenway Plan, and then to revise this plan in 5 years, which most of them have in them. And with that, I stand for questions.
Any questions?
I have a couple. I can't remember how many years ago, there was a new FEMA floodplain map.
And so I guess just want to make sure that if we do go through and update sections of this plan, that the new FEMA maps in there, because I think there's additional homes and buildings in the new definition of FEMA's floodplain, if I remember correctly.
Absolutely. And Bud Mulaney, our floodplain manager,
Yeah.
maintains those and is in constant communication with the mappers.
Okay, great. And then, I guess some of the things when I was reading through it, and just in terms of updating is certain issues, for instance, Ursa Minor, right now, that kind of is the sort of the boundary between Councilman Smith's and my district, and there's a lot of concern with increasing wideness of the road, and with when rains occur, with the flooding that comes down and the mud that comes down across this little walnut and goes into, I think, is it Ohio or Maple? The residences across and into the street across. So that there's new things that have started that are not in the 1999 plan, that I think that's one of them. The issue that we have with, I mean, just knowing that even if, it doesn't matter if it's an El Nino or a La Nina year, when it does rain, it's torrential now, and we have increasing problems with runoff, coming down, depositing debris, mud, pieces of trees, not just small branches. I mean, I'm talking some big ones. And our road crews have to go out and clean up. So I guess part of it is not trying to do something that we can do on the upper end to prevent that runoff coming down like that, and being able to capture the runoff and use it to water anything or whatever in the proximity. And I know we have a number of, I can't remember how many projects on alternative types of catchment going on with
186 or something like that.
So we are moving forward, but I know that in District 1, in certain areas, especially coming off of the hill that Ursa Major and Ursa Minor on, that there's a lot of runoff coming down, and that is exasperated by folks that are doing work on their property, putting in new gas lines, things like that. All of a sudden we have mud, coming down when there's torrential rain. So I guess overall, just trying to look at it and incorporate some of those new factors and those new issues that have come about. And for instance, I went through it and I didn't see anywhere 19th Street, although you and I both know, because of that award on your desk, that it floods pretty badly. And also up on Pine Street, even though there's a bridge that you can walk over, I've had, folks call me and say, go look at what's going on, and the flood, it's going right up and over the bridge, and the bridge is catching all the debris. So I think that's a part of that upper watershed management issue, working with the Forest Service and BLM and groups like that. So just, I guess, in updating it, I hope that it's something where it's not just the 1999 plan, but we can append new information to it, since the plan itself, as you said, is relatively good. Correct?
Yes, and that would be the purpose of revising it,
Yeah.
is to update it. And if you look at the anecdotal information in the back, there is comments about Pine and 19.
Right. I didn't get all
Some of the damage that was caused there in the previous years.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Councilman Smith?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First, I want to say I was thrilled to see this plan. I thought that I had read things that were in Peter Russell's library, but I missed this one. And seeing the picture of the flood on Pine Street terrified me. How I can really see how this plan is one of the foundations of the sustainability plan that was adopted just a few years ago. And therefore, I really encourage the recognition of the things like more violent weather events that we're going to be facing. And as, of course, as our councilor and mayor know, changes in geographic structures around town have really produced areas that have some difficulties, or perhaps they were not before. And I guess one of the things that would be really interesting to me, I'll pose this as a question to you, Mr. Marshall, is as I'm reading it and I have ideas about things to bring up or notes to include in the comprehensive plan, like perhaps a complementary look at green infrastructure as well as, concrete infrastructure. What's the best way to get those notes captured and then used when we are really working on the comprehensive plan?
There's a few issues. Some of what Councilor Bedison referred to was a little more immediate, and don't sit and catalog it yourself while frustration builds in the community.
Oh, no. That road, that story, that's been discussed with
Yeah. The other issues, some of it you could choose to catalog it yourself. Everything that comes into our department, that comes into Public Works, that comes into utilities, makes us more aware of events that are going on. So when we go back to look at these plans, to look at the comprehensive plan, we're really knowledgeable of all of the events that are going on around town. And, I gave a case to code enforcement today, and they told me the property owner's name, that quick. And it's, so you can send those to us, and we will catalog them, and so that they're there whenever it's the appropriate time to include them.
Thank you. So one of the things I think I had a short discussion with Manager Brown about was perhaps we ought to bring in some more sandbags, because I think that we might have some really heavy rains this year. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilor Connor?
Thank you. I too have an area of concern, and mine is what has happened because of Vista de Plata subdivision. When that hill was made good for the Vista de Plata, it ruined the way the waters came down that hill, and now the end of east of Cali is basically a lake every time it rains. And my concern there is that most of the people in that neighborhood are seniors who live alone, so they're not safe to be working on things. So I would like to see that added to this eventually. It needs to be worked on. And I do have some pictures and things if you'd like them.
Absolutely.
Any other questions? Mr. Marshall? Councilor Ray?
No, sir.
Thank you. Mr. Brown, do you have anything else? Under staff reports?
I guess I'll answer one question about that last comment of Vista de Plata. The Vista de Plata road project that we're working on right now, that is a big part of the design, is capturing a lot of the runoff that was created because of the utilities that were put in already, is to capture a lot of that runoff, because I've had a lot of comments from people on Kelly about that. And what we're trying to do is capture more of the water, keep it on the street, and direct it to the actual drainage catchment areas where it's supposed to go, rather than affecting private property. Okay.
Anything else, Mr. Brown? Okay. Next item on the agenda is new business, budget discussion for fiscal year 1016 through 2017. No, that would be 2016 through 2017, yes.
Hey, Mayor and Council, as you know, it's that time of year to start working on the budget for this next fiscal year. So I have some very general concepts and things I've been working on, and the first thing I work on, of course, is what the projected revenues are for the next year. And then I've already looked at some FTE situations, and I'm going to go through some of this. None of this is set in stone, and I'm looking for your direction on how to continue moving forward on this one. For 2016, we budgeted $8.2 million in the general fund. Total general gross receipts tax let me start there. Start over. We budgeted $8.3 million in gross receipts taxes to the general fund. we budgeted $9.6 million in total gross receipts. Parts of those gross receipts taxes go to the public safety fund, parts go to the 2011 bonds, some go to other bonds, and some goes to the gas tax fund for street maintenance, which was allocated about 2 or 3 years ago. And so part of that total gross receipts taxes that is generated is shaving off the top of that, and then the rest goes into the general fund. So last year we budgeted 8.3. This year I'm projecting 5.2 million in gross receipts taxes, and that's the part of the increase is due to the additional 2 months of the 0.25% tax increase that we didn't receive this year. This year we only saw 10 months of the 0.25% tax increase because it went into place in July, and then we don't receive that first payment until September. So we only had 10 this year. Next year we'll get the full 12. This is based on the last 3 years' average total sales, and with the added at the 8% tax rate total. And it does have the 0.25% tax. I did pull out 12% of the hold harmless because this year we lost 6% of the hold harmless. Next year it'll be a total of 12% that we will lose. Actually, the hold harmless is probably the easiest part of it to forecast because our food is probably the most stable of any of the revenues. And something that I just wanted to mention that it might be interesting to you is that we were having some issues with the gross receipts taxes, getting the proper amount of gross receipts taxes for the last up until this month, the previous 3 months, and because there was apparently one of the large retailers was having problems reporting the hold harmless correctly, and then the state had been sending us the wrong percentage rate, less than what we were supposed to get, and so we did catch up this last month, and so that was corrected, but we've seen some declines in retail sales over this last year, and I figured that was going to happen because what's happening at the mines. But what was sort of interesting to me is that usually, almost always, I've seen when retail sales starts going down, disposable income, all those types of things. So food and accommodations goes down as well. This year it's actually going up, even though retail sales is going down. So I think that's one area where we can see that tourism is having an effect, offsetting a little bit of the loss from what's happening with the jobs at the mines. And the mine stuff is going to stabilize more. It's going to be easier to forecast it this next fiscal year. So that's what operational costs. I'm looking to keep them flat for this next year in each of the departments. And right now I'm just talking about the general fund. Some of the proposed changes is to decrease the municipal court staffing by 3 FTEs. That's due to decrease number of citations filed in the court. We've had very few filed in the court because we're filing everything that can be filed under state statute in magistrate court. We're also decreasing the planning department by 2 FTEs. Part of that is because we had a retirement. Mike Lee retired, and a lot of those duties that work that he was done when affordable housing is going to be done by what's the name of that?
Tierra del Sol.
Yeah, Tierra del Sol is going to take it over, a lot of it for us. We're also going to be continuing to still doing some in-house. And then there was a secretary position that was budgeted and was only staffed for probably 3 months. And we're not going to fill that position, so we're eliminating that. On the other side, I'm looking to increase FTEs by 1 in both the Parks Division and the Streets Division. Part of the reason for that, a big part of the reason for that is, last year with all the activities that have been happening throughout the year, it's been straining to both the Parks and the Streets Department. We've hired quite a few additional temporaries, 6 additional temporaries, to help them throughout the year. But usually we started in April and it would end in September, the activities, but now we're going out till October, November, this last year. So we've got a longer, season throughout the year that we have, activities, and the Parks Department and the Street Department are usually the ones that are more strained, other than the police and fire, of course. Those 2 departments, I'm looking at maintaining the current staffing levels, no changes there. And as far as every other department, we're looking at maintaining current staffing levels. To go back to municipal court, like I said, I'm proposing to eliminate 3. One of those positions, right now, one of those employees that applied for a finance position that was opened up, and we are going to fill the finance position with one of those municipal court employees. So we're trying to keep from eliminating those people that are currently employed. I also am currently in negotiations with all 3 unions, and that's probably the ugliest part of my job. I hate doing it, but it's got to be done. So I'm working with police, fire, and ASME. I do have some. Because I'm in negotiations, I can't do it publicly, but at the next council meeting, I would request that we have a closed session so I can let you know where I'm headed. I've already got some preliminary agreement with one of the unions, but I want to let you know where I'm looking to move with the others. And probably by the next council meeting, hopefully I will have preliminary agreements with the other 2, I hope. So in the end, in the general fund, we're looking to have an actual decrease of about 0.5% of total in expenditures. We're having a little bit of an increase in revenues, a bigger increase. It's about 1%, but about 0.5% decrease in expenditures. So do you have any questions or comments about the general fund? Or I can continue, and as you think of something, then
Councilor Ray?
No, sir.
Point of clarification, just want to check. Mr. Brown, so on what we were given, it says 14%.
Yeah, that was wrong.
It's 12%.
I wrote it, I fixed it here, yeah.
Okay, good.
It's 12%, yeah.
Thank you. I thought there was another increment that I didn't know about.
No, I saw that a while ago and I changed it in my notes. So I'll go on to the water sewer fund. Right now, billed consumption continues to decrease. So this year, at the end of the calendar year 2015, we pumped 46% of the total water rights that we own. And so that is down from a high in 2012 of 62%. So the water conservation efforts that we've moved towards in the water conservation plan have been very successful. I think a little bit too successful, because now maintaining the funding to adequately maintain the operating system is getting a little bit stressful. So I'll talk a little bit about that as I move on. The unaccounted water is down to about 10%, back to when it used to be between 18 and 24%. The last 3-4 years, we've been between 8 and 10%. This year, I think we're somewhere in the 10% range. And there's a whole bunch of different factors that contribute to that. Water leaks, water going through old meters that isn't billed. We're working on that with the stuff now, on the meter stuff. But we also see, for instance, in 2012, probably a big part of the high water usage was the huge fire volume. There was a lot of fire activity that you can't we have a hard time quantifying the amount of water that we use from our system to put out those fires. So those were some big things back then. And then in 2016, we projected to have a bill about $5.46 million, but we're on pace to hit about 5.3 this year. 2017, I'm projecting 5.3, so I am going to propose a 30-cent per 1,000-gallon increase, and that would be to just keep it at the $5.3 million that we're hopefully going to reach this year. So the total revenues that I'm projecting in the water sewer fund are $3.8 million in water, $781,000 in sewer, $717,000 in wastewater rates. I'm not proposing any increase to the the sewer or the wastewater rate, but I am going to propose a rate increase to the water of 30 cents per 1,000 gallons. The average water bill is around 6,000 gallons, so we're talking about $1.80 per month. $1.80 per month increase in per water. So that should generate about $147,000. And the reason that and I don't have it here, but the reason that we need to maintain our current levels of revenue is because as part of the ESCO that was approved by the State Engineer's Office, we are required to reconcile our water savings every year, and we are also required to do leak detection all year long. Right now, we do leak detection twice a year. So what we are going to do, we currently have 4 employees in the meters department. We're going to go down to 2 employees in the meters department, move 2 of those employees over to the utilities department, and they will start working on leak detection throughout the system. So we're hoping to get through the entire system at least once a year, hopefully once a year. But what that's going to happen is we're going to find a lot more, we're going to start finding leaks sooner. And what's the use of being able to find a leak if you don't have the money to fix it? And that's the intent of the water rate increases, to ensure that we have the funds to be able to fix the leaks as we find them, as well as to offset some of the costs for some of the water replacement projects. For instance, we've got a CDBG project, which is a water replacement, which you approved the application back on Chihuahua Hill. So that's what we're looking at. And then the operational budgets and expenses are looking to about increase by 0.5%. A lot of that is cost of living stuff. I'm putting the excess revenue that I'm looking to generate into reserve. That way, as we need it, we use it. I don't want to just put it in the budget so we can use it. I want to come to you and ask to be able to use it. So with that, do you have any questions on the water sewer fund?
Councilor Battiston?
Thank you, Mayor. I think I just want to reiterate to folks that when we say revenues, these are enterprise funds. You know, it's not that we're realizing these revenues just to fill the coffers of the town.
Yes, it's not a profit, it's a revenue to offset the expense. And what the way that the ordinance reads right now is we try to maintain a 1/12 reserve in the enterprise fund, the water sewer fund right now. I'm going to propose that we do that to the sanitation fund later, before this next fiscal year. But that's intended to be able to ensure we have money to fix those system leaks, and we've been able to do that. And as you can see, by keeping our unaccounted water low, we've stayed on top of that stuff. The utility department has done a very good job at keeping on top of that.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that was reiterated. It's operations, it's personnel, it's the management of the system. It's all the things that we have to do, and that the reserve is there in case we have a huge old water main blowout.
And it's only $300,000 in water system improvement really isn't a whole.
It's not a whole lot. Yeah.
It's not huge. So it's sort of being able to cover your operations safely, operational costs safely.
And I appreciate the fact that you pretty much assured the public that it's not that it will be used for anything other than those sorts of repairs. It's in a reserve, it's sitting there when we need it. It's not to do something else.
Yeah, we don't have I'm not looking into increased personnel. Like I said, with the meters employees, I'm taking current staffing levels, moving it from meter reading to utility, so that they can help be proactive on the fixing of the system, just like what we're looking at doing with the meter readers, trying to be proactive with them now, because they'll be spending less time meter reading and more time working with the customer to identify leaks, to help them not fix leaks on their side, but to let them know, what kind of water usages can happen, because a lot of people don't realize, and this happened to me personally because I didn't believe our meter reader foreman back early on when I first became manager. I couldn't believe how much water he said could go through a leaky toilet. So one of my toilets started leaking, and I left it for a month just to see what would happen. And that's why I started having my water bill taken out of my check, to make sure that when you get the $200 water bill because of the leaky toilet, it can happen. It does happen very easily. And most people don't realize that happened. And I've had a lot of customers come to me because of those types of situations. And what we can start doing is, the employees, it'll take about a day to read meters. And then hopefully throughout the month, we can go out to read, but not to get the meter reading, more to identify water leaks throughout the month. Because if you've got a water leak that's only going on for a week rather than the entire month, we can, that being a lot more proactive to offset those, keep those from happening. And, that will cut into, we generate more money when a customer has a leak, but we don't want to do that. What we want to do is, just pay for what you actually use. And we want to be able to pay for what we actually pump. And the closest we can reconcile those two things, the less expensive in the short term and long term it is going to be for the entire community. So that's based on what we've been working on in the water conservation plan and the approach that we've taken since we adopted it.
Thank you.
Councilwoman Smith?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So, Mr. Brown, just two things. One is that I have completely supported and still do the idea of really knowing where our water goes. And can you give me a sense of a time frame where we're going to be able to really have the data to really see what people are using by monitoring through our new automated meters and having those meter readers then really begin to engage as customer service?
Well, the installation is way ahead of schedule. It was supposed to take until August. That was the estimated time frame. We might be done by the end of May, early June, with the complete installation. And they've actually been reading routes already with the new system. So, and they've actually gone out and identified leaks for customers already. We've been able to help customers find leaks. So it's already starting to happen. So it's actually going to be pretty quick. And we're not going to transfer those 2 additional employees over real quick, but because what we want to do is have all 4 employees being able to go out and talk to customers, because the leak isn't at the meter, the leak is in your house. So we're going to start finding a lot of leaks as we go through. And then we have to identify how small of a leak we want to if it's a really small leak, is it worth us going and telling you it's going to cost you $100 to fix it, and it's only costing you $2 or $5 a month to do it? Those are types of philosophical type of question that we need to figure out over some time. And we don't think that we're going to do that up front. We're going to do it more on the back end as the project is more fully implemented. So that's what we're looking at right now.
Councilor Conlon? Councilor Ray?
No, sir.
Councilman Smith?
Thank you, sir. So I'm understanding that people are really working on getting these meters in, people are doing readings and stuff, but what we're going to be looking at is a more comprehensive approach, more holistic approach, maybe in the fall, maybe early next year.
Early next
Good
year.
time.
Yeah, early next
People
year.
time to do
You
that.
know, we want to have it completely installed, our staff to be able to completely understand how to use it.
Yes.
And then we need to train our staff to retraining them to right now, their meter readers to go out and read your meter, and then they come back, give us the reading, they go out, replace your meter, fix your meter, do those types of things. They're not going to be doing that for a few years. You know, they're going to be installing a few meters here and there for new accounts or when something breaks down, but they're not going to be doing very much of that. It's going to be more of a customer service type of employee. The same employees, because we've got some good employees in that department that know how to communicate very well, but we need to retrain them on what types of things they need to be doing.
Okay.
I'm looking for.
So, thank you. I do want to say that increases in water bills are a touchy subject, that there's always a concern that people who are on a very fixed income, that damages them more than people who can work and make more money. But I think that if you had good data, you'd be able to say not only the average, but maybe the modal, how many people use about this much. And what would be the most surprising huge amount that might occur from this? I'm anticipating my use will only go up $1.20 a month.
You know, the large, I mean, it's a little bit over 6,000 gallons, the average household usage. But understand, that includes the commercial accounts as well.
Right.
So you have a ton of commercial accounts that are using hundreds of thousands of gallons. And so you have a large percentage of the community that are only using between 1,000 to 3,000 gallons.
Right.
The vast majority are using that much. So we're talking more about 90 cents a month, 30 to 90 cents a month for the big majority.
Thank you. Thank you.
No questions?
Yeah. Sanitation?
Oh, okay, sanitation. Sanitation fund, the projected revenues are about $2.3 million. For 2016, we should reach that. I'm projecting the same amount for 2017. I'm not proposing any increases there. We haven't had any increases there for 4 years. The big changes that we're going to be seeing is that the recycling contract is going to be decreased. Currently, we pay about $240,000 for the recycling contract. I've already worked with the Solid Waste Authority staff, and that is going to be decreased by $100,000, so it'll be about $140,000. We're going to add 2 FTEs in the fund so that we can have the drivers for the new automated recycling system. We will have the new debt service for the vehicles, which will be about $110,000. And then all other operating costs are looking to decrease by about 9%. So that's how I'm covering the 2 FTEs without increasing the revenue, is by decreasing operating costs. And we should be able to decrease it, maintenance in the vehicles, because the recycling vehicles will be the old vehicles. There's going to be a lot less wear and tear on them. And we'll have a lot less maintenance on the new vehicles. They're going to be brand new, I hope. And then fuel costs have gone down significantly. And that has been a savings in the general fund, the water sewer fund, and the sanitation fund, because the cost of fuel has gone down substantially in the last few years, and especially since we went to this has been our first full year with the fueling station, and it has been a very good investment. And what's nice is, because the county and the Solid Waste Authority are participants in that, they're helping us offset the cost of operating as well. So, and with that, as far as lodger's tax, I'm still looking at about another $250,000 to award this next year. And usually the other big fund that I talk about is gas tax, because that's where all the maintenance money comes in for the streets. And that's going up about a percent and a half, because of the increase in gross receipts taxes, because they're getting their portion of that gross receipts taxes. So with that, any questions, direction, comments?
Councilor Patterson?
Thank you, Mayor. I would, at least from my perspective, everything is really well thought out and explained, and I think that the direction you're going in is a good one, because I am concerned, of course, with the increase in water rates and folks, thinking that's a result of the installation of our new automatic read meters, but it's been very carefully explained that that's not the case. So I think we're running lean and mean, as we always have. Very tight budget, but we're doing well in that we're not facing such a significant decrease as other municipalities are in the state, and having to try to figure out how we're going to survive in the next year. So I appreciate the work that you do and your staff does to keep us in financial health and working through the budget. So thank you. Thank you.
Councilor Lehman Smith?
I appreciate also the logic and the rationale. I always have a concern about choosing not to replace when there might be other retirements or stuff coming up in a particular department. And so I just want to encourage you to think about the work that might be going on in the planning department.
Well, actually, I guess I probably misspoke a little bit, because it's not really we're not replacing him, because we added an extra planning position last year.
Right.
So we're not replacing that added position that we added last year. We are filling the planner position that was added last year. The employee has been selected. That's why we have the opening in the finance department. And so, we're not, James and I have gone over it quite a bit.
Thank you.
And he's been working with Jamie, because we want to make sure that, that planning stuff is, of course, taken care of. And so, but it's very hard to get that affordable housing experience. So we want to make sure it continues to work. And so we have an organization that does that, helping us. And so,
I like that. Thank you. That's it, sir.
Councilor Ray?
No, sir.
Mr. Brown, I just want to say I really have a lot of respect for the way you handle the budget. I'm new as a mayor, and I don't know all of the intricacies of the budget, but I do think that you kind of work miracles with the money we have. But I do have one little concern, and that is, when I was campaigning, I talked to hundreds of people, and I talked to a lot of people that were senior citizens that were on fixed income, and other families that were on fixed income, and even though 0.3 cents to 1,000 is not a whole lot really to a lot of us, and I was looking at your operating and personal expenses to increase by 0.5%, and that's attributed to cost of living increase. But a lot of these people that are, at the lower income scale that don't have that ability to just add a new income into their budget. And I'm wondering if, since as you pointed out, the people on lower incomes use a lot less water. I do know that we have a prorated water structure already, right? The more water you use, the higher the rate. Is there any way to build in a rate structure so that those people who use the real small amount of water would somehow realize a smaller percent increase in their water bill.
I could do that. I mean, you know, I could introduce a third tier, because right now it's 10,000 gallons, and then everything above 10,000 gallons, the two tiers. So I could introduce a third tier for the 0 to 3,000 gallons. We still need to charge everyone per 1,000 gallons, because if I don't charge everybody, we stop seeing that included in the revenues, and we lose it from the unaccounted water. But I can work on tier 2 and tier 3 adjustment rather than tier 1.
Well, I'm just speaking for myself. I don't know how the other council feels about it.
You know what I'll do is I will, when I come back next time, or next time I make a presentation on the budget, I'll bring two proposals, one with the current 2-tier and one with a 3rd tier proposals. That way you can make the choice, still being able to generate the necessary revenue needed to operate.
We need to generate the income so you can operate, obviously.
Yeah, I can look at that. That's doable. Okay.
Any other questions, Mr. Brennan?
Thank you, Mr.
What's next on your...
Next, the judge would like to make a presentation.
Okay.
Can we for a short recess first, please?
Okay. We will take a 5-minute recess because we're almost done. I call this meeting back to order. Judge Reese.
Good evening, thank you. Again, I promised to get you all out of here by midnight. The best way to present a budget for the court is to just simply start at the beginning, to give each of you an understanding of the way our court works and how we've been impacted by many of the changes that have come before the court. On March 18th of 2015, I was made aware through gossip that citations were no longer going to be filed in our court. After meeting with Mr. Brown, he advised me that he and the chief had decided that all traffic violations were going to be filed in magistrate court for the following reasons. The first reason given to the court was that the jail bill was too high, that all jail was being charged to the court instead of investigating how maybe the chief's procedures, how changes in statute had required or had increased this bill. I was advised that there were too many warrants that were being issued and that the officers were being forced off of the streets and into the role of warrant servers. Mr. Brown chose to ignore the fact that the chief of police had a quota system in place that gave officers more points for arresting people and taking them to jail. And that also impacted the number of officers serving warrants. I explained, justified, and predicted the issues that would happen with the court. I explained how I would be hurt, how the taxpayers would be impacted, and how magistrate court would be impacted by this decision. I felt that my pleas were ignored. A few days later, I demanded a meeting with Mayor Morones. Mr. Brown and James Marshall met with me. They promised me several times that this action was indeed an idea that the city wanted to try. That if indeed the issue did not work, that the cases would come back to the court. I have learned since then that that was not factual. I have learned through my meeting with Judge Laney at Magistrate Court that at the same time that Mr. Brown was meeting with me and explaining and telling me that this was something the city just wanted to try, they were meeting with Judge Laney and telling her that their decision was final and that no matter what, I would not be getting the citations back in my court. So all during the time They were promising this was a trial period only. Something else was being promised to another court. I was promised communication, and most importantly, I was promised that my budget would not be affected in any way by this change of courts. Several months later, I asked for an update meeting, and in that meeting, Alex and the people involved advised me that everything was great, that the change of courts had fixed the problem, and that there was nothing else that needed to be done. I knew it to be untrue. I knew it through conversations with the police department. I knew that through conversations with the magistrate court. But again, my opinions were ignored. I was directed to continue with business as usual. Now, 1 year later, it's budget time, and Mr. Brown now proposes to cut my budget by 50%. He's cutting my staff, or he proposes to cut my staff by 75%. Loss of revenue from fines and fees collected is the only and easiest way to compare revenues in the court. Before I do that, I just want to mention the statement made by Mr. Brown earlier about these positions, these full-time positions being moved into openings in the municipality. It's true, one of my clerks just put in for the accounting position at the city, but the reason she did that was not because she's not happy with her job or that she wants to leave the court, but because she's in real fear of losing her job because of these changes. So it sounds very tantalizing, and it sounds appealing to say that these positions are just being laterally moved around so that people are not impacted. If Alex is allowed to proceed the way he has proposed to proceed, there's one staff member in my office who is nearly a 7-year employee. She's in her 6th year of service. These are loyal employees that are well-trained, that we have spent a lot of time, effort, and money to train. So I want you to look at these positions as real people, as people that are impacted in our community, that shop at our local merchants, that have mortgages and have needs within our municipality. So again, the best way to discuss the loss of revenue is to compare revenues from one year to another. And so what I'd like to do is now show you how this decision has negatively impacted the court. In 2013 to 2014 year, we had 16,514 filings. We collected $441,750 in fines. After our bills were paid, after the jail bill was paid, we still had what I'm going to call a profit, and I'm sure Alex can give us the proper term for it. We were still had $62,970. So I give you these numbers not so that you can look at the court as a money-making organization, but that you can see that the court does indeed carry its own, that the court does and makes every attempt to not be a burden to this municipality. In 2014 and 2015, there were 8,700 filings in our court. We collected $354,500. That year, even after our jail bill, we had a surplus of $128,566.70. So again, we are not a burden to our municipality. Our current year, 2015, through current date, we've only had 39 filings in the court. We've collected $64,400. We've done that through warrant roundups. We've done that through auditing case files and the occasional warrant that gets picked up here and there. But basically, we have done that by doing what's within our ability to stay busy. As of the current year, I can honestly say, and this is based on past revenues, because that's the only way a court can really explain what our revenues look like. We are down $400,000 from 2013-2014. We are down $300,000 from 14 and 15. So when we talk about this decision, And the reason I'm here to talk to you about this decision is because this is impacting our taxpayers. This is impacting our municipality, and we are not using public funds wisely. In order for this change of courts to take place, Mr. Brown had to negotiate a contract with the DA's office so that the DA would allow our city prosecutor, which is Jim Reynolds, to assist the DA's office so they would not be overextended by this decision. The city pays the prosecutor to assist the DA's office to work in the state court. As of April 1st of 2016, $44,000 has already been paid to that prosecutor. Last fiscal year, only $60,000 was paid to that prosecutor, and that was through the entire year. When that prosecutor works for municipal court, those revenues, they stay in our municipality. When that prosecutor works for the state court, those revenues stay in the state courts. So the municipal funds lose that money. The court will still generate jail bills for the city, as we still have outstanding warrants to be collected. So the current jail bill currently is about $24,000 up to date this year. However, by giving the filings to magistrate court, we're no longer collecting the $20 correction fee that we used to collect on every citation. That $20 correction fee offset that jail bill. Okay? So what that means is that the city is actually paying more out of their own general fund to pay for these bills than what is initially set by statute, that $20 to pay for each citation. There's been a magistrate employee hired by the city to help magistrate court. This was done while full staff and judge wait for work to be filed. Municipal court went from a bustling, well-oiled machine with state-of-the-art court software, completely automated and fully staffed, to an office ready and willing to work on a daily basis with no filings. Yes, I am. It's an important issue, Mayor. I will hurry. Mr. Brown forced me and 3 clerks to sit and basically twiddle our thumbs for an entire year, dealing only with active files and pending cases. I ask you to stop and ask yourselves, is this really a cost-cutting measure or an excuse for taking away the power of a judicial branch of government? Ask yourself, where are the savings? Although we all know that courts are not money-making organizations, and that after the Department of Justice report came out about municipal courts in Ferguson, that many people jumped on the bash the courts bandwagon. Let me be very clear. New Mexico municipal courts are not the equivalent of municipal courts in that DOJ report. We're different courts. New Mexico municipal courts are not money-making organizations. We strive to impose justice and operate within the confines of law. But we are different from state courts in that we are forced to stand in rooms like this all across the state and justify our needs for a budget and for staff. State courts don't get their funding from the legislature. State courts get their funding from the legislature. They don't have to stand before a governing body this way. Not even the governor can interfere with the funding and or the operations of the court. As we all saw in the past year with our governor, even she got in trouble for messing with the funding for the courts. There's been a negative impact on the community due to these issues with the administration of justice. Now Mr. Brown is affecting 2 courts. The city is paying equal, if not more, of costs, as well as having a court with staff and building sitting idle. You're required by law to have a municipal judge, to have a staff, and to house them. Why not utilize those tax dollars to their potential and allow me to do the job I was elected to do? Let me and my staff earn the money that we're paid for. The state is collecting fines and fees for the work that SCPD is doing. The taxpayers should be shocked that they're being taxed at a higher rate and that Mr. Brown is giving away hundreds of thousands of dollars to the state.
Judge Reese,
Yes.
you've given us a lot of numbers and information. Would it be possible for you to give us the packet of information that we can look at and examine?
I have one for you, Mayor. I've given it to you before. The reason I didn't give it to you before this meeting was because Alex did not provide me with the numbers until late Thursday evening, so I missed the deadline to get it into the agenda because he said my budget was not prepared yet. So, yes, sir, to answer your question, I will give you these facts.
Yeah, I mean, you didn't give me exactly what you're going through now. I mean, it's a good presentation, but there's too much information to assimilate just in this setting. So if you could provide us with that, we would appreciate it. Is that?
I have copies for each one of you.
Okay.
I do have copies for each one of you, and I will continue with my presentation if you don't mind.
Well, I did tell Alex that we were going to keep it to 10 minutes, and we're already way past that, so I would like you to wrap it up if you don't mind.
Okay. I really feel, and I'd like to reiterate why I think it's important. It's important for our government to be transparent and for the impact that the community is feeling to be able to be addressed. Now, I did not have the opportunity to discuss these changes neither with Alex nor with any of the council before it was done. I haven't had any valid communication with Alex or any of the powers that be since it has happened. So my only forum, Mayor, is to discuss these issues now that my budget is on the line. Now, it does have a point, and I will get there. I think it's very important for you to fully understand what and how the court is being impacted.
Okay, I tell you what, I will give you 5 more minutes, okay?
Okay,
All right.
that's fine. Although I feel like all the rest of the presentations lasted longer than 10 minutes. But I'll go ahead and do that. I can provide for the press and for anybody who is interested to get the rest of my presentation so those facts indeed do come out. Let me get to one of the issues that I think is very, very, very important. The fact that there are 3 employees that Alex is proposing to cut from the budget. First of all, cutting any employees from a budget or proposing a budget at all for the court by Alex or any other member of government that's not in the court is contrary to law. We have Supreme Court rules that state that municipal courts cannot be required to submit their budget to anybody but the council directly. So the fact that Alex has prepared any type of proposed budget without any communication with this court is contrary to law. And that's why I'm here to explain to you what it is I need and what this proposal would do to my budget, would do to my court. What I'm going to tell you is that my proposal for this year's fiscal budget is to keep my budget intact without any cuts in the operations budget. Again, it is only legally appropriate for the court to submit the budget to the council. It is never appropriate for the city manager to do that. And oftentimes, this is where the hurt feelings start, because previous judges may have allowed the city to create a budget for them, but without true communication, that budget cannot be created. What I would like to do is request that operations budget remain intact, and I agree to give up 1 full-time position, reducing my personnel budget by approximately $31,000, and I implore you, Mayor and Council, to direct Mr. Brown to allow the court to return to its normal function. one of the other very, very important things to discuss with you is the fact that because of the decision that was made, Mr. Brown entered into a contract with the magistrate court to pay a court clerk approximately $63,000 to do a state employee's job. Okay? So in municipal court, we have myself and 3 clerks that are currently in the court. And we're sitting twiddling our thumbs again, like I said. Alex proposing to remove 3 of those people from the office. But he has entered into an agreement with the state court to hire a person at $63,000 for 1 state employee. That's exactly what's in the memorandum of understanding that I can show you and is public record for anybody to look at. That's more money than's budgeted for my position. That's more money than is budgeted for 2 court clerks. So to hear that there is not sufficient funds and that we're being creative about the way we move the positions around is not factual. I also fear that if this process continues, that there actually could be litigation from the rest of our city employees. Not only court employees, but city employees who are doing a job right now with more years of service for less money than what a new person is going to come into a state court and do. This person will have better benefits, will have better wages than any of the incoming employees. This person will have more budgeted in their budget than myself, than my court administrator who has 7 years experience, than my court staff that have 6 or more years experience. So I fear that allowing this to proceed is going to create a lot of hardship for our municipality. And that's why it's important for the public to understand that these decisions are being made without any communication with the court, without any real means of addressing the issues that are. So what I have asked, and I've asked each one of you separately, with the exception of Ms. Bettison, Councilor Bettison, I've asked for each one of you to please try to promote real communication, to find some way to mediate this issue so that we can all get back in the direction of serving our municipality, to serving it in a manner that helps the taxpayer, that allows us to use the money properly, that doesn't silence a public official. I haven't even mentioned the fact that I'm an elected official, that I was elected not once but twice, and that the people that went to the ballot box and voted for me have been silenced. They lost their public official. Now, I know that that would not be tolerated if anybody else on the council was suddenly told, well, Councilor Smith, we don't like the way you ruled. We're going to let Councilor Bettison vote twice next time because we like the way that she rules. I know that that would not be tolerated.
Reese, could you go ahead and wrap it up? I'm sorry.
Certainly.
We need to wrap it up.
Certainly. I know that that would not be tolerated. So I think it's important for the public to know, and although, Mayor, I know that it's not a comfortable situation to discuss, we have an obligation to the public to utilize their money properly and to be transparent in what we're doing. And a lot of what is happening right now in the town of Silver City is being done in the dark, and the public does not know. So that's why it's important for me to discuss the issue. Again, I respectfully request direction from each of you on how I should proceed to prepare my budget for submission. Again, it's not proper for the city government to submit a budget for the court. Do you have any recommendations?
I don't think that's our role right at this moment. So if you would provide us with all of the information that you've gone over tonight, unless any of the council want to proceed in another way.
I'd appreciate a written packet with that information.
Councilor Kano? Yes.
I'd appreciate a written packet with all of the information. I mean, I'm one of those numbers persons, so I need to see the numbers you're talking about. I need to see some of the information that you've presented here that we don't have anything in front of us. So it's an awful lot to really try to absorb. And I think I'm slightly uncomfortable because there's been a number of allegations made against staff. And I think that, as you well know, Judge Reese, you have to have substantive proof of those allegations. Because right now, I don't have anything in front of me. So if you could please provide either a written packet that can be distributed to a copy to each one of the counselors. That's what I would like, Mayor.
If you would give that to the town clerk, she can distribute it to us, okay?
I have all of those and have them prepared tonight for you, and I certainly will do that.
Councilor Ray?
I agree with what you're saying, sir.
Okay. Thank you, Judge
That
Reese.
needs to be fine.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Brown?
I don't have a whole bunch of numbers for you. I can't respond to all the different numbers, but what I can say is the decision that was made based upon interactions with myself, James, and Ed, trying to do the best we can to keep our officers on the street, not taking people to jail. That has been increasing twofold, threefold over the last 3 years. And I can't pay more for more employees so that everybody else can be taking, the officers can be taking others to jail for a ticket. They're not felons. That's not my job to judge. But for every warrant that is an officer serves and arrests someone, they're off the streets for 2 hours every day. So they arrest 4 people throughout the day. We're down 1 full employee to take people to jail. And I know that prisoner housing fees went from an average of $70,000 to $80,000 to 2014 when it was $110,000, and 2015 when it was $197,000. The hourly cost to house a prisoner did not go up since 2000. So the number of hours people have spent in jail, the number of people that have gone to jail, has increased by 3, 2.5. And so from the operational standpoint and serving the community from the police department standpoint, that is the basis for our decisions. If I can be provided a copy of the packet so that I can provide you with the numbers that we have to justify it. As far as the cost for the employee at magistrate court, that is a cost for an employee for 16 months, not 12, for 16. The benefits aren't as good at the state as they are with the city. We pay a much larger percentage of PERA. They have the same insurance program as we do. They pay the same percentage as we do at the town. So there's some information that isn't completely accurate, and I would be happy to provide that information to you if I can do so. And I don't want to give you information right now that isn't true. I won't do that.
Yeah, I don't think more numbers are going to help us right now. If you could just give us a response.
I'll give you a response to what you received.
We appreciate it.
Yes. So
Any other questions of Mr. Brown?
No, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
The next item on the agenda is, under new business, is appointment to the museum board. We have received one application from Judith Billings. Her appointment has been recommended by the president of the museum board, Ronald Fair, and the museum director, Tracy Spikes. I think you all received a copy of that recommendation. I would like to appoint Ms. Billings to the museum board if there are no objections.
No objection, sir.
Okay. Judith Billings is appointed to the museum board. This concludes the business of the town council.
Mr. Mayor, I move to adjourn.
Mr. Mayor, I second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.